Serious, what is the stupidest reason a random stranger was mad at you? What happened? This would sound stupid to some of you. I was 10 and I was playing at a public park. Suddenly, a 6-year kid came near me and started confronting me. She said I was too old to play in the kids area. I wanted to ask her, who the hell are you? Question mark. Did I bother your ass? It was embarrassing because a kid was scolding me in front of so many people. Her mom thought that I was harassing her and started running towards us. She shouted at me without knowing what actually happened. And people was praising that the king kid for being brave. I did nothing wrong. The swing wasn't her mom's property and she talked as if she's the mayor of our town. I didn't react that much, but I want to go back in time and punch that kid and her stupid mom. You met the chihuahua of the playground. I bought the last cream-filled donut at a Jolly Pirates and the old lady behind me in line took this as a declaration of war, saying that I took it from her. The worker chimes in saying they making more and feed be ready in about half an hour, but she wasn't having it. I hope she's doing okay. It was such a silly thing to get mad over. It's annoying when the person ahead of you buys the one item you wanted. Happened to me once when the guy in front of me bought the 3 remaining slices of the only type of pizza I could eat. Food allergy. Leaving me with 0 choices. But it wasn't that guy's fault. He didn't know. I was quite annoyed, but part of being an adult is not taking out your frustrations on people just going about their day. Yeah, being an adult means sometimes you just stare at somebody and silently hate them. But you say nothing. I once had a guy at the beach yell at me to stop laughing. I wasn't laughing at him at all. Just laughing to myself because I was happy and having fun. My ex used to do this. He thought people were laughing at him and he would get angry. Yes, he is nuts. He actually regularly did that. Dang. That's pretty bad. With the guy at the beach, I gave him the benefit of the doubt and assumed he was just having an off day. I work retail. People have been mad at me for everything. I literally had a man get mad at me for handing him his change and receipt at the same time. That is a little annoying. I've never expressed the annoyance towards anyone, however. I worked retail for 13 years. I found handing coins first, then bills and then receipt was the best way. Most people don't put coins and bills in the same places and it's annoying to organize that while being concerned if someone is behind you next in line. Had some lady get mad at me last night in a Walmart because I wasn't an employee there and couldn't help her. Last I checked, Walmart employees don't wear bright butty yellow shirts with reflective safety striping, Forks badges on their sleeves, or wear slippers while on duty. Yeah, this happened to me at McDonald's once. Some lady was mad at me for knowing how to work the touchscreen ordering kiosk, but not actually being an employee there. She acted like I had willfully bamboozled her for a sick laugh. Mayo. One time I was on one side of a gas pump and an older lady was on the other, and in a very rude tone says, "Hey, come show me how to use this thing." If she asked in a normal and not rude demanding tone, perhaps I would have. I just said no and filled up and peaced. A guy yelled at me from balcony because I didn't pick up after dog. He couldn't understand that my dog only peed. I had to explain to him that female dogs need to squat to pee. He also couldn't accept the fact that she is a female dog because she just looks like male. American Akita. I witnessed the same exchange earlier this year in my little village in Middle England. Girl in her early teens is walking a female dog that squats to pee. As she's walking off, an old lady pull over her car and rolls down the window to shout at her. Starts scolding this little girl who is just stammering and trying to tell her the dog only did a wee, but the old woman is so busy shouting she doesn't even hear. Eventually harumph and drives off, flooring the accelerator, but without the clutch fully up, so the car is revving really loud, but moving really slowly. Old people do that a lot in the manual transmission world. I was about 20 feet back just shaking my head. People that completely boil my piss. Absolute cretin of a woman. I was 8 years old, swimming in a swimming pool and a woman nearby frowned at me and said, "Ugh, lose some weight!" Exclamation mark. I didn't know how to respond. I just started crying. Man, this could be my grandmother. She liked to say things just to shock people. We were in the mall one day when a little boy strolled by, and my grandmother said, What a fat little boy. This, from a woman whose body shape could best be described as an apple on stilts. Also the same woman who visited us while we were living in Germany, and while at a cafe, would not stop talking loudly about the Nazis. I know it doesn't help, but when people say crap like that, it usually has nothing to do with the target of their ire and everything to do with their own misery. I'm sorry you had to go through that. My grandma does the same thing, but she's usually justified to some extent. We were at a restaurant and there was a terribly behaved child running around. It was a fairly expensive place. As the dad ran past to go get him for the nth time, she goes, "Wow, that kid is a little bastard." Later she noticed that they had a younger baby. So as the dad ran past again, she goes, "Well, she tricked him into the first one, but staying for another is just dumb." Me and a friend were around 13. While we were waiting to cross the road, we started talking about the sushi that we were about to eat at her place. Both very excited. After not even a minute, this huge bald man standing in front of us whips around and just yells at us to shut the fuck up, with the look of a man who would not hesitate to punch a child. So we did, and then had to walk in the same direction as him for the next 5 minutes. Twas a pleasant experience. I had someone yell down from a window to shut up when I was walking by humming to myself. I stopped and looked around to make sure that he was indeed telling me not to hum in public in the middle of the day. Then I carried on my way, singing full volume. There was the time some weirdo on the bus threatened to kill me because he thought I'm a policeman's son sent to tail him. Apparently I'd gotten on the same bus as him twice in the same day. My wife and I were visiting her family, and I drove her and her mother shopping. Her mother needed a new bra. Oh god no, you know? So I stand by the registers just waiting for her to finish, and this woman comes up to me and calls me a racist for following her around the store. I tell her I don't work there. She goes into this whole tirade about racist security guards and I keep saying my wife's a customer here. Leave me alone. Finally I just left the store and sat outside. She stated angry at me. Weirdest part was that the store clerks wouldn't support me. I kept looking at the cashiers who clearly knew I didn't work there, but they wouldn't help. Brought my big dogs into big dog side of dog park. Two ladies with 7 chihuahuas started screaming at me and then tried to tase me. Needless to say that the cops got involved. Just reminded me I was at a huge off-leash dog park with my boxer and my collie. This big dog park is in one much larger park area, but it's a good few acres on its own. It's all fenced, and at every entrance and exit, you have to go through gates. There are signs all over the place saying off-leash dog park, and listing the rules for the dog park. We were heading toward the car park after a day of running, and passed a bench where 2 women sat near the river. This place was right smack dab in the middle of the dog park. A man who looked to be a doggy daycare or something similar went past up the river, and I heard the women comment, "Jesus Christ, pick a breed, why don't you? Why would anyone bring that many dogs around where kids play?" Apostrophe. I mostly ignored it, but as we went past my boxer and over to the ladies, she didn't touch them, just wiggled her nubbin. She loves people, and sniffed around their feet a moment before running back to me. And I hear, "Jesus, put your damn dogs on a leash. It's against the law to have your dog in the park without a leash on. This place is going downhill. There are kids here. What do you think this is?" Apostrophe. I turned and said, "Lady, it's an off-leash dog park," and then kept going. For the record, there was nary a kid in sight, and hadn't been all morning. I was in the park with a friend and this guy was on a bike coming really fast. I moved enough for him to get through, but when he passed he said move in an angry tone, and I still think about it. This reminds me of the time I was standing next to my mum's car in a parking lot when I was like 10. This teenager/young adult pulls into the space next to us, almost running me over. Like she moved really fast. I didn't see her coming or anything. And the guy was with her said, "Dang, you almost ran her over." And she said something to the effect of, "Well, she was in the way." When I was 13 or 14, some random old man get mad at me for playing outside and not being home studying. Also a few years ago, a Russian Karen tourist that was visiting my country yelled at me for not knowing Russian language. I found a coin and put it in my pocket. Some dude called me poor because I picked up dirty money and all I said was, "Richer than you." He beat me up and nearly broke my neck. If you're reading this, duck IL and get help. Edit. For anyone wondering, the guy was 20 to 24 and I was 14. I called the police, but they didn't do much. For anyone saying, shouldn't have replied, don't blame the victim, alright. Yes. I once saw a bunch of pennies on the ground. I picked them up and this guy goes, what are you, Jewish? I remember straightening up. He was giving me this look like, say it, and I just backed away from him. I think I was about 19 to 20 and this guy was 22 to 24. I can remember thinking to myself rapidly, don't say anything. Don't say anything. These are the people who usually end up in jail for most of their lives. And they will never understand why, because they think everyone is like them. I found his wallet with everything in it, a lot of money, driving license, ID card, near a restaurant. Nobody claimed it, so I told them I'd bring it to the police and gave the restaurant staff my number. It was a small local police station. The one officer was about to head home when I arrived. He thanked me, and I was glad. Half an hour later the owner of the wallet called me and asked me where it is. I told him it's at the police station and he could get it there next day. He shouted at me why I brought it there. How I could do something that stupid. I ended the call telling him that others even say thank you in such situations. Already posted another, but I have one from working on a bookshop. It was a small bookshop specialized on fantasy/SF books, and for some reason, we were sometimes listed as esoteric shop. The owner tried to fix it for years, and then basically gave up. One evening a lady calls. Hello. I'm looking for a pendulum. Do you sell these? Sorry madam. We are actually a boost shop. We only sell books. But you are listed as esoteric shop. Yes. This is a mistake. We are a bookshop. Do you know where I can find a pendulum? Sorry. Maybe try the antiques shops. Miss. I'm looking for a pendulum. To find someone. Not a clock. The words are very similar in French. Yes. I understand that. But I don't know where they sell pendulums. Antiques shops may have some, I guess. I'm sorry, I don't know. And I guess you are closing soon. Well, yes. But we don't have any pendulum anyways. Well, have you checked? Well, we only sell books, so you really are good for nothing. I hope you will never sell anything ever again. Hangs up. I do hope this lady is okay. She seemed very desperate to find someone. We still don't sell pendulums though. Had her imagine not being able to make a pendulum. Had her like just go to Home Depot and put some shit on a string lorry. Well, maybe she could have bought us a book to put it on a string. That would have made everybody happy. A ridiculous case of mistaken identity. I was playing on the school playground by myself at the end of the day. Probably aged about 7. My mum usually arrived to pick me up about 5 minutes after the end of the last bell. So I was just minding my business and swinging across the monkey bars until her car pulled up. A random lady started shouting from across the field at me. Sarah, get here now. Do not make me wait. Sarah is not my name. And I was the only kid on the playground at the time. I looked over at her confused. Even gestured a kind of heart signal to her. But she couldn't see my facial features in the distance and still thought I was her kid. She continued. Sarah, don't make me come over there. It's time to go. You will be in so much trouble. Stop ignoring me. The lady kept shouting and sounded like she was getting angrier. I tried to ignore her because even my little kid brain had realized that she'd mistaken me for her own child. I then started getting worried because she had started marching across the field towards the playground, all the while screaming about the punishments Sarah would revive for not following her instructions. That's it. I'm going to smack your bum all night when we get home. You're not going to know what's hit you. I ended up hiding behind the slide. And when she finally got to the playground, she looked at me, realized that I was not a child, and sheepishly said, "Oh, not Sarah," before turning on her heels and leaving. Funny thing was, my school was very small, less than 100 kids, and there were no girls named Sarah attending them. Waiting at a bus stop after school, some random guy sits next to me and tries to sell me weed. I tell him I'm not interested, and he gets up and stands away near the curb as a bus approaches, and he gets on. Then he sits at the back of the bus and looks out the window at me and just starts throwing me the middle finger while aggressively mouthing some words. Haha. It was Christmas Day 2020. I was at work at the register gas station while a customer walks up to a food warmer. Customer asks if we have his pizza. Advised we had more food like burgers etc. Coming up in about 10 minutes. Customer yells great. Now all I get is this ducking pizza and proceeds to pick a slice then throw it on the counter at me. I'm so sorry. Gas station work can be a bitch sometimes. It was one of the worst jobs I've ever had. I work at a COVID call center and a woman got mad at me for not having the answers to her COVID test. Mom, I'm afraid it's bad news. You have 2 days to live. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.